Well, I think we... Can everyone hear me if I... Is that microphone on? Can you hear me at the back? Yes, good. Okay. Right, well, I think we're going to have a fireside chat here. I had one of those heart-in-the-mouth moments when Iqbal suggested that I might be doing the keynote speech, which I wouldn't have been able to match Max's superb explanation of what we, the Islamic Insurance Association, have been doing over the last 4 years and where we see ourselves now. Just briefly, I'm David Whear. I'm a partner at Norton Fulbright law firm. We've been involved in the Takaful sector for many years now, and have seen the opportunity that it presents to London and the wider market. The London insurance market has always demonstrated an ability to seize an opportunity and not to be burdened, I guess, by conventional procedures. And that buccaneering approach has created what I suppose we might argue to be the most important insurance market globally, as Max pointed out earlier, particularly in the wholesale arena for complex commercial risks. So it's no surprise, I suppose, that London has seen the opportunity that Takaful presents. Max talked about the relatively small proportion of Islamic finance assets as relative to global assets. Another statistic that struck me when I was having a look earlier yesterday was that we're going to hit around about 5.1 trillion. That's 5.1 trillion. That's quite a large number of noughts, 12, I think, of insurance premium globally in 2019. Now, Takaful contributions are going to be around about 20 billion for 2019. So that's less than 0.5% of the global insurance market capacity. And as we heard earlier, the Muslim population represents about 25% of the global population. Now, of course, you can't correlate those two statistics, but there is an enormous gap that needs to be filled, and as we heard, that is not a niche business. So, what we would like to do today is explore some of the issues that are perhaps restricting the development of Takaful products in the United Kingdom, what we can do to develop the business. And so I'm delighted to have such an esteemed panel of practitioners and those who've been working in the London market and in the Takaful business specifically for a number of years. So perhaps if I get you guys to introduce yourselves. Start with Mohammed.
Good morning. My name is Mohammed Khatb. I'm the Managing Director of the Treaty Division at United Insurance Brokers. We've been working extensively with Takaful and Re-Takaful companies for many years now, servicing them out of our London office, but also out of our Dubai, Malaysia, and Singapore operations to ensure we give them access to the international markets.
Morning, everybody. My name's Plumb. I'm a director at Cobalt Underwriting. I've been at Cobalt the last 2.5 years, focusing ostensibly on Takaful business. We're a Shariah compliant MGA based in London. Prior to joining Cobalt, my background, I've got 25 years in underwriting, based in the company and Lloyd's market in a lead capacity, focused mainly on property, international property, D&F and energy business. 7 years of that was spent in Australia and in Southeast Asia. So I have got experience of working in the Southeast Asia regions, the GCC regions. So I hope to bring that to bear on Cobalt.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Dave Matcham. I'm the Chief Executive of the International Underwriting Association. We are the trade body in the London market representing insurers and reinsurers who operate outside of Lloyd's within London. We work closely with Lloyd's and with the brokers on many issues, one of which has been the formation of the IIAL. I sit on that steering committee, working with all the London market participants to promote this type of business.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Good morning, everyone. My name is Zubair, Miah. I'm the internal share scholar for Cobalt Underwriting. I work with Anne. As Anne explained, Cobalt is a MGA, and my responsibility within the company is to ensure that Cobalt itself is Shariah compliant, and all the business activities within the company is also Shariah compliant.
Okay, so thank you to the panel for those introductions. I should say, obviously, we're going to have a conversation around a number of issues here, and I'll be asking the panel some questions. But I think we're very happy, indeed more than happy, if, as we go along, if there are any comments or questions that you have and that you want to put to the panel in relation to a particular topic, whether that's what we're discussing at the time or not, please do so. Just raise your hand and I'll try and keep an eye on any questions as they come. So hopefully we're all comfortable with that, folks. I think so. I just wanted to really start and sort of linking back to Max's introduction around what the Islamic Insurance Association of London has been doing in relation to the guiding principles, Dave, actually, for you. And they were launched, obviously, at the back end of last year by John Glenn MP, and I think to a reasonable amount of fanfare. But perhaps you could explain why we spent the time we did in devising those principles, I think, as a starting point, and then we can go on from there.
Yeah, the association, as Max said, was formed about 3 years ago, and the principles really were the culminating piece of that phase one work of the association. We'd done educational activities, we'd been promoting the sector, exploring who in the market may be interested or currently involved. And we noticed perhaps a lack of consistency in some of the approaches. We felt that London needed to show leadership to the Islamic community, that it was, as Max said, ready, willing and able to provide this coverage. And so it seemed to us that the logical step was to have a set of guiding principles, not standards. That would have been probably too far at that stage to go, but some guiding principles that would explain the operation of the sector, all the necessary steps that you'd need to ensure you perform accurately. And this could be, therefore, the launching pad or a catalyst for a greater demand for the business, and also for more windows to be formed or more insurers to be interested in supplying the product. It was a natural end to the first phase of the association's work. It's key now to look forward, which I'm sure we'll discuss, as to what the next step should be. But they were well received. They were accredited by all the correct governing bodies for the sector. The government welcomed them. As you say, they were launched by a government minister, which showed their continued clear commitment to work with the industry to promote this important part of the Islamic picture, somewhat the missing link, has been said before, given the strength of Islamic banking at the moment.
Thanks. And I suppose to other panel members maybe, is there a sense of any positive developments as a result of those principles?
Okay, I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but so far I've really seen no impact from these principles. I fully understand the motivations for doing them, and I fully accept that London is in the position to lead the way, and I think that's absolutely correct. And I also understand that a lot of time has been spent on this, but so far to date, we've seen no impact on business flow. I think there's a number of factors around that. I think that it's combined with the whole market at the moment, that particularly in the Lloyd's market, there's been a capacity crunch, for want of a better word, and underwriters have obviously just retreated into more comfortable areas of business. So maybe in the future there will be more evidence of impact, and maybe there's, in the meantime, during this current phase of the market, more work can be done on the principles.
And sorry, Dave, I was going to say, but they're there as a matter of record now.
Yeah.
So they're a basis for any form of elevation or promotion of the product, a catalyst. Perhaps there's a group of carriers out there who want to show some leadership and to basically see it as or potentially even a lost leader to create a market for this product down the line. So, well, I accept what you're saying, and it's a difficult market for London at the moment.
I think, it's like anything, isn't it? You develop a framework, you're not going to see within, a 6-month period any immediate impact. I suppose though, Anne, have you seen over the last 2-3 years any heightened interest in Takaful, or would you say London remains reasonably flat in terms of?
I think there's two of us can talk
talk
about this, obviously. So I think where we've seen the most heightened interest has been from Pakistan in the last couple of years, and that's certainly where more interest has come from, that market in particular. We've certainly had a number of conversations with a number of carriers around developing products in the UK, and that would be much more in the smaller personal lines type project area. So that's something we're working on specifically at Cobalt. But beyond that, definitely Pakistan, and definitely interest from Malaysia as well. And again, it's a chicken and egg situation, because I think once there is more publicity, there are more articles around what different markets are doing, then interest will follow. An old colleague and friend of mine is speaking tomorrow, who works for the World Bank, and they've got particular interest in Indonesia at the moment. So he approached us to talk about Re-Takaful simply because there is he's come across that as a need in Indonesia. So again, I think it is developing, but as Max said, these things are taking a long time to develop, and as an insurance community, we have to take the lead and we have to invest our time and energy.
I think in recent years, I cannot say we've seen a major increase in demand. I think similar to conventional insurance, the Takaful business is very price sensitive. It is not necessarily going to the Re-Takaful capacity. They are going to where the capacity is available and where the pricing is competitive. As brokers, we would do the same thing, while we would always try and give some priority to the Re-Takaful operators. However, when the business seems to be moving behind the most competitive markets. And I agree with Anne, there's also, what's happening is also a reflection of the overall conditions of the London market. In recent years, we've seen a lot of the business moving away from the London market to some of the regional hubs and some of the other European markets. And the incentive behind where the business is going, given the lack of any direction by the stakeholders or the shareholders insisting on Re-Takaful capacity, I think the business just goes to the more efficient carriers. Pakistan might be a good example, because maybe the increase from Pakistan is due to the regulator there insisting that all placements now are done with Re-Takaful, and that's why we've seen the business maybe shifting towards the Re-Takaful operators. when this is not there, I have not really witnessed much business coming, or more business coming into London.
So that might point to Max's nudge theory that there may need to be further regulation across the relevant Islamic jurisdictions. Maybe we'll come to that Zubair a bit later. Dave, just pick up though on the kind of, I suppose, public policy aspects. That's obviously something dear to your heart. Do you think there's anything further that kind of UK limited, the government or policymakers can do, or have we got to a point now where the environment has been created for the product here, and it's now to the market to decide whether the demand is there?
From what I see, our government are still very keen to promote any possibility to grow this market. So if they're looking to grow Islamic banking, Islamic investment, etc., then I'm sure we can work with them such that their messages to that community could be, oh, and by the way, there is a market there that can also insure these products in a Sharia-compliant manner. It may be a stretch to take it into a mandate type position like Pakistan. I think that's more of a, you have to search for it, and if you can't find it, you can go conventional, something like that. But if our government were to say that, I'm not sure that is the sort of public policy that trade associations pursue, i.e. mandating or compulsory type coverages. We prefer sort of free markets as such. But to my mind also, the London market is involved in many discussions with government about the post-Brexit world. You know, the new future trade agreements that we can negotiate with many countries. Some of those countries have been identified by the government that have a significant Islamic population, who may therefore wish to use Re-Takaful more into London on the back of that trade agreement, if it includes a financial services element. Another continuing and interesting dynamic to this, not so much pure government, but city of corporation type activities, the Lord Mayor of London's promotional visits abroad. As some of you may know, he's currently in Malaysia and Indonesia this week to promote the city's role to provide products to the Islamic community in those countries. So all of those factors continue, I think. You don't stop that work. That's a continual process for any trade body. The IIIL will have a voice in that, as will the individual entities who are members of it. Some thoughts there.
Yeah. And Zubair, I guess there are probably 2 points for you. I mean, I know you spoke passionately last year about the principle of necessity. Perhaps we can pick up on that again in the context of Re-Takaful and see how your thinking's advanced.
Thank you. Previously, in the previous conferences, I've always been critical about Takaful and Re-Takaful. And you're probably tired of me hearing me saying that we need to prioritize Takaful over conventional, and we should not abuse the principle of necessity. You're probably tired of me hearing me say that. This year, I'll probably take a different approach, a positive approach. And I think, personally, Cobalt's observation, I think in the previous year, alhamdulillah, from a direct Takaful, direct insurance perspective, we have seen a little bit more discussions. We have seen referrals. We've seen people question Takaful, take some quotes. Again, Re-Takaful as well. We've seen some positive approach towards that as well. There are more Takaful providers asking to reinsure from a facultative and treaty perspective. We've seen those discussions, but we need to work more to change those discussions into transactions. We need to see people take and buy these Takaful policies and Re-Takaful policies. To what extent is the principle of necessity still being abused? I think it's still being abused a lot. People are still using the rule. If you consider that 70 to 80% of the Takaful business is being reinsured conventionally. So you can see that there's a lot of work required in this area. A lot of work is required in convincing these Takaful companies to buy ReTakaful policies. Now, why are these 70 to 80% Takaful companies still going conventional? Now, there are various reasons. I spoke to a few Takaful providers, and the common answers are obviously rating, pricing, and lack of capacity. These are the usual answers. That's why they are going conventional. Some Takaful providers, after the recent runoff of some high-profile ReTakaful companies, some Takaful companies have lost confidence in ReTakaful because they see that these ReTakaful companies have gone into runoff. They need some security. They need reliability, and that's why they go conventional for the rating and the reliability. Some Takaful companies, they are in their comfort zone. They like to be where they are. They have done conventional previously and then to continue to do conventional. We need to get to them and convince them that there are rated products available, the pricing is competitive, and there are capacity out there. You need to explore, you need to advise the broker. You see, there's already an existing relationship between the client and the broker and the insurer. These relationships they go way back. And it's very difficult to actually come in and break this relationship. To say, no, broker, you won't go and get conventional. You need to go and find Shariah compliant capacity.
Should we bring the broker in at this point? It seems like an appropriate...
I will pass it to him. Let me drill him a bit more.
Time for a talk.
I think it's quite easy to blame the Takaful companies for not using the Re-Takaful capacity. But I think the reality is, as I mentioned earlier, it's a matter of supply and demand. The reinsurance market is extremely competitive. The brokers are under a lot of pressure. They're up against competition. And they'll always do their utmost to ensure they're getting the best deal for the client. And the case remains that the capacity and know-how